The oak leaves were turning brown, and the sun was sparkling on the ripples of water as it flowed over the mossy rocks of the American River Canyon. Families of quail stepped sprightly along the trail in front of them, while a red-tailed hawk circled overhead. It was a magnificent day. As soon as they arrived at a comfortable set of rocks from where they could sit and watch the water, Thomas Jefferson said this to Jesus. "Good sir, I am truly honored and appreciative that you agreed to spend these few hours here with me."
"Don't mention it."
"My first question is one which I suspect led you into deep trouble with both the Pharisees and the Romans, and which may have been the immediate cause of your crucifixion."
"Yes."
"Could you tell me whether or not you are the Son of God?" Jesus' eyes were fixed on a distant rock downstream, and he did not reply for a long time. At last he turned to Jefferson and gave this answer.
"Thomas, I will try to answer each of your questions as best as I can. But before I begin, let me caution you that my own views should not be taken as what you might call gospel truth. No, they are the thoughts of a very human creature who, like you, is also struggling to understand the complexity of life, the universe, and our place in it." Jesus paused again before offering this remarkable answer. "Of course, the details of my conception are totally unknown to me, and neither of my parents ever mentioned the possibility of an immaculate conception until I was fully grown. You should note here that at the time of my birth, there was a massive hunt for newborn male babies, and that many were killed for no other reason than the timing of their births. So if the Lord were my biological father, it would not be the kind of thing one would talk about, even with close friends. You should also bear in mind how such a topic might subject our family to ridicule as well as potential violence. No, the truth is that I have no way of knowing my precise biology any more than you do."
"My next question is whether you feel that the Lord placed you on this planet ultimately to suffer on the cross and thus save mankind from damnation."
My honest answer is that I believe my purpose here on earth has been to try to steer humanity toward a more kind and gentle nature. And questions such as whether or not I am the biological Son of God, whether or not my crucifixion served to save mankind in some way, or whether or not I arose from the dead, all these have served primarily to distract humankind from the essence of my teaching, which is for people to love one another.
Then that leads me to my next question. With all of your emphasis on love, on turning the other cheek, on loving thine enemies, and so on, how do you feel about the many innocent people who have been killed in your name? In the Crusades, the Spanish Inquisition, the slaughter of Native Americans, and the various institutions of slavery in which I too have been complicit. Even recent wars, such as in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Vietnam, have invoked your name in support of the killing of others. How do you feel about all this?
Jesus turned to look
down on the small rocks below him, and he wept. The tears fell uncontrollably, and he rubbed his eyes with both hands. Jefferson walked over and put a comforting hand on Jesus' shoulder, and at last Jesus began to answer Jefferson's question. I feel that I have failed. I honestly don't know how I could have made my message more clear. And yet, as you say, the history is there. People, particularly rulers, but also common farmers and merchants and others, have claimed to be my followers while engaging in the killing of others. This is the exact opposite of the message I sought to convey. Why did it happen? I don't know. My friend, I can see that regardless of the nature of your divine energies, you feel the suffering of us mortal humans. And this, among so many other qualities, is why you are so loved. My next question is about the difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament. Indeed, between Judaism and Christianity. As you may be aware, during my life in Monticello, I kept what has come to be known as the Jefferson Bible. This contained excerpts of my favorite passages in the New Testament. Conspicuously absent is the God of wrath, which is so dominant in the Old Testament, whereby sinners were cursed rather than forgiven, and innocent people were destroyed by floods and warfare. My question is, how can you reconcile the teachings of wrath in the Old Testament with the teachings of love which you brought to the world in the New Testament? Again, Jesus was quiet for a long time before answering. At last, he said this, Thomas, your perspective is exactly right. My ideas were revolutionary, and in some ways they still are. Had I been living at the time of Cain or Noah, I would have protested the treatment of their families and friends, and I probably would have been killed for this. But your question is also about whether or not my God is the same as the God of Genesis. And this I cannot answer. Those events took place long before I was born and were written by people whom I never knew. Like you, in your Jefferson Bible, I chose to ignore those stories because the messages in them so disagreed with my own beliefs. All right then, let me move on to another subject. How do you view such religious leaders as Abraham, Moses, Mohammed, and Buddha? Do you see yourself as different and unique, or as part of a common energy united with them to lead mankind to a better place? Ah, my friend, this is a question to which I can give you a more direct answer. To be perfectly honest, I find that my teachings have much more in common with those of Siddhartha or Buddha than those of Abraham, Moses, or Mohammed. Siddhartha and I both champion the practice of pacifism and forgiveness, while killing and retribution have been a vital part of the beliefs of the others. Siddhartha and I are both committed to compassion for all, while the others believe in the concept of a chosen people and a kind of outcast state for non-believers.
although some of my own followers continue to kill in what might be misguidedly called holy wars, and to discriminate against females, people of color, the poor, and many others, both Siddhartha and I are united in believing that all humans should be given full respect and treated equally.
Then tell me how this factors into your view of heaven and hell. Haven't you maintained that those who do not follow the teachings of the Lord will go to hell, the ultimate rejection or the ultimate intolerance? Please tell me more about what these terms mean.
Ah, my friend, it's been a long time since I had a conversation like this one. Can I let you in on a little secret?
Of course.
I invented the concepts of heaven and hell in order to give my teachings a little push. The truth is that at that time I had no way of knowing what would happen to any of us after death, and I was getting discouraged about the way people paid almost no attention to what I was saying. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Even back then, while I was still alive, I could tell that my message was just not being comprehended, much less followed. It was too radical for that time, and I'm afraid that these ideas are still too radical for most Christians here in this 21st century.
Then let me move on to the crucifixion. That must have been excruciating and must have made you question your whole relationship with God. How could he have both loved you and put you through such pain?
Yes, agony. It's hard for anyone to imagine what torment my body endured during those hours, those days. Fortunately, I was unconscious much of the time, but when I was awake, I did wonder how this could be happening to me, and why.
Many Christians interpret your crucifixion as the most important part of your life, for your suffering on the cross saved all of mankind from our sins. What do you think of this?
It's an interesting theory, but to be truthful, while I was in agony on the cross, there was not a single thought like that. I was just totally crazy and confused. My body hurt so much that I don't think my mind was capable of working, much less of conceiving this kind of rationalization as to why I had been put through all this, if indeed there was a reason. It wasn't until long after my death that others concluded that somehow my suffering could save mankind from original sin. I don't know exactly how this connection could be made. It seems like such a stretch. But the thing that really burns me up is that especially if future Christians believed that I had suffered on the cross for them, that they still ignored my teachings. So many Christians over the years have lived lives of greed and selfishness and have supported slavery in those terrible wars. Of the religions you mentioned earlier, which was the only one in which followers actually lived lives of peace and humility? Not Christianity, not Judaism, not Islam. No, it was Buddhism. bosom, and Siddhartha didn't even have to die on the cross to persuade followers of his message.
There was another pause at this point, with Thomas Jefferson cradling Jesus in his arms.
Then Jefferson said,
"Jesus, please tell me more about your thoughts on Mohammed."
"Thomas, again I will be very honest with you. Just as I have had trouble with Jews as being the chosen people of the Old Testament, I have had trouble with some of the intransigent qualities of Islam. Its insistence that Muhammad is the ultimate prophet for all mankind, that the Quran is the only spiritual book and cannot be translated into other languages, and that such acts as stoning and polygamy may be acceptable. All these bother me. Still, I strongly believe that Muhammad's belief in mercy comes close to my belief in love, and he was, by and large, a peaceful man."
The sun was falling low in a pink sky, and Jesus looked exhausted. So they both decided to walk back to the car and return to Rosewood. When Jefferson mentioned that he would like to have this kind of discussion again, Jesus lowered his eyebrows and muttered, "We'll see."